I think when I walked out of the theater, the one thing that I said to you guys was, this is like the Spider-Man 3 of horror movies.
Hello and welcome to the movie podcast review of Halloween Ends. My name is Daniel. I am one of your hosts today, and joining alongside me are my fellow jack-o'-lanterns, even though I'm the one wearing orange, and you guys are both wearing black. Which makes
Very
sense.
Halloween, though.
Yeah, it is. It's very Halloween. I like it. That other voice that you were just hearing, that is Shahbaz. Hello, Shahbaz.
Hello, hello, hello. I'm Jack the Ripper.
Oh, no.
And
Anthony,
is that what you said? Jack-o'-lantern or Jack the Ripper? I couldn't remember.
I said jack-o'-lanterns, but both are on brand, I guess, for Halloween.
I thought that was his last name. I don't know.
No, well, we don't know. I think, maybe it could be Lantern. And Anthony. Hello, Anthony.
Hello, everyone. I am
How
not
are you doing, Anthony?
a jack-o'-lantern. I am...
No, you're not.
What's the little pumpkins? You know those little pumpkins? What are
You're
they
a
called?
jack of all trades.
You know the ones that you find
You're
at the...
a squash.
That's a squash. The little jack-o'-lanterns are the ones that are cute.
Oh.
I'm the cute
one.
Little
Pump, I believe that's what they're called.
Little pumps? I don't think that's what they're called. Little pump. I don't think that's what they're called.
Didn't he have a good song about jack-o'-lanterns?
Yeah, it was a great song. No, it's funny. If you're watching this on YouTube, which you should definitely be doing on youtube.com/TheMoviePodcast, this was not coordinated. I wore an orange shirt, and Shay and Anthony are both wearing black, so we are very much like a jack-o'-lantern right now, which makes sense. It's very fitting for the movie we will be talking about very, very soon. But Shahbaz, I want to ask you, how are you doing today?
You know, I'm doing great. I can't wait to talk about this movie. I genuinely cannot wait. I think the whole drive home, my feelings about this movie just kept going up and down into a place where I'm like, oh, this needs to just come out. Like I need to finally hit record because I need to talk about this movie.
Yeah, we got to light the candles in the jack-o'-lanterns because the movie podcast is coming to trick or treat at your doors. And
was this like a Santa Claus thing at first? Like, were you doing like the movie podcast is coming to town?
Yeah, no, the movie podcast is not coming to town. We are not in Christmas mode yet here. That's still like a month away, but don't worry about that. As always, you could catch a brand new episode of the movie podcast almost every single day throughout the week. Make sure you're following us on all of our social media platforms. That is Instagram, that's Twitter, TikTok, Letterboxd. I literally was like Instagram, TwitTok, all of MySpace. We're on it. LinkedIn as well too. You could follow us everywhere. The movie
we
podcast.
are on MySpace. I need to update it, by the way.
I don't think we need to send people there, but you can if you want to. If you're still living like it's 2007, come join us on MySpace. I'm sure we're having a great time on there. Not too sure who's following us there. We haven't checked on it in a while. But please make sure you're following us because that's the best way to stay in touch with everything that we're doing. Also, we have a lot of amazing episodes out. TIFF was last month, and we had a great time there. And we have so many reviews out, including our review of Glass Onion, The Fablemans, and so much more. We also got to interview some really amazing people, including Ethan Hawke, Ewan McGregor, Brendan Fraser, and so many more. So please go check out all of our incredible episodes for that. Next week on the show, we're going to be having a review of Black Adam. We're hopefully going to be having some interviews for that too, and stay tuned for all of that. And of course, today's episode of the Movie Podcast is sponsored by MUBI. So make sure you check out our show notes below to see how you could get 1 month of cinema for free. We'll tell you more about that later in the show. Shay, I got to ask you, we have something called Discord. And we're having a really great time in there. You're doing something really fun every single week, and you're asking a question of the week. And I want to know, what is your favorite question that you've asked so far?
Oh boy, that's a tough one. I think one of my favorite ones that I was not hoping, but I felt like would lead to some sort of discourse was, what movie would you want to remake today?
Discourse on the Discord. I like it.
Discourse on the Discord, exactly. And I got some great answers, and I was very I love the community that we have on Discord because a lot of people were just like, I would not remake a movie ever. And I was like,
what a dumb question, Shahbaz.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Why do we do a question of the week? And then I had some people who were like, oh, I'd remake this. And I was like, I see why you said that. So there's a lot of great conversations happening on there. And that was probably my favorite. Let's just see what else comes off the top of my head. Yeah. If anybody has a question they want to ask, I know that in the Discord, people have asked a question as well in our questions channel.
Yep.
Please feel free to do it. Give me a day off or a week off. I don't know.
Yeah. Anthony, jump on in.
I was going to say, like, how do you come up with these questions? Is it like something that you plan months ahead, or is it just you wake up in the morning and say, oh, I'm going to ask this question? Like, what is your process when it comes to these questions. I just
Well,
want to
I'm
know.
glad you asked me because I've been trying to get this off my chest for a while. No, I usually look at the week ahead and I'm like, okay, well, where are we kind of going? What movies are coming
Right.
out?
What's
What is
relevant right
related to
now?
this theme? This is the spooky month, so I think for this week I asked, like, what's your essential horror movies list? And a
Right.
lot of people in the chat were like, I don't watch horror movies, and I was like,
Yeah.
that is
I
interesting
respect
because
that too.
Daniel, you and I were right there. We were not men of horror. We were like, oh, if we'll watch it if we have to. And then now we're like, yeah, like we've seen so many horror movies and they've climbed up the ranks in terms of my genres that I like to
Yeah,
watch
and
now.
some are our favorite films of the year of this year have been a horror film, so that's pretty amazing.
Exactly.
Yeah, so I mean,
Exactly.
and let's see if it continues. Today's episode of the movie podcast is all about Halloween Ends. This has been a long time coming. This is, of course, the third of this new trilogy of Halloween films. This is directed by David Gordon Green. It's going to be releasing in theaters this Friday, October 14th. In the States, you could also watch it on Peacock, which is definitely a choice if you want to stay home and watch it. I promise you, with a movie like this, it's best with an audience, and we're going to tell you why very, very soon. But it stars, of course, Jamie Lee Curtis reprising her role of over 40 years now. Matichak, James Jude Courtney, Will Patton, Rohan Campbell, and Kyle Richards. And I want to say thank you to our friends at Universal Pictures Canada for inviting us to watch this film. Anthony is going to tell you what it's all about.
This is Laurie Strode's last stand. After 45 years, the most acclaimed, revered horror franchise in film history reaches its epic, terrifying conclusion as Laurie Strode faces off for the last time against the embodiment of evil, Michael Myers, in a final confrontation unlike any captured on screen before. Only one of them will survive.
I love it. Thank you very much for that, Anthony. Shahbaz, jump on in. Let's get things going with your first reactions to this film. And of course, give us a little bit of your history with this new trilogy.
Yeah, so let's talk about that. So Halloween 2018 is also one of those first movies, Daniel, that you and I kind of watched during our this time with when we started on YouTube, really, and we were
Yep.
like, okay, let's we got to watch some horror movies. Let's do it. Let's dip our toes into it. And we walked out of that film just floored. We loved it so much. And then you fast forward to Halloween Kills, and we watched that all together, and it was just not a great time. It was janky. It was slow. It really did not leave a lasting impression. Now, when you're in that kind of a mess, when you're at that point in the franchise, and you look at the producers look at this movie, the director looks at this movie, where do you go from here? What do you do? Do you go back to what worked in the first time, or do you completely flip the script on us and commit to something that is so absurd and ridiculous as it should be, because you have a figure walking around for 30, 40 years
The
that just
shape.
won't die.
The
The shape that won't die in more than 30 years, sorry. But and then you get this movie and oh my god, this movie commits to what it is. And I don't think it was until maybe about, a third of the way into the movie that I finally got on board with it, because at
Right.
first I'm like, what is this? And again, I want to start off by saying though that the opening sequence of this film is phenomenal.
Yeah.
I'm going to remember that opening sequence because almost everyone in our theater just leapt out of their seats going like, holy shit, that just happened. I can't believe it.
Right.
And then the movie kind of just goes down a path. But when it commits to how silly it is and absurd it is, and you kind of see where the narrative takes place, I kind of got on board and I was just like, this is so bad, but it's so much fun. Why can't I take my eyes away? I was laughing, I was cheering. The whole crowd was doing the same thing. But is it what you expect from a Halloween movie? Absolutely not. Is it what you expect from when you kind of go to a place where you've just dove off the deep end? Absolutely. This is that movie where they know now what it is. And I think when I walked out of the theater, the one thing that I said to you guys was, this is like the Spider-Man 3 of horror movies, where it's just so silly. There's so many one-liners. There's this commitment to theater acting that you've never seen before. And it just goes and goes and goes. And you have to give props to the team, because I mean, this is a Danny McBride produced production. So were the first two. This is the first time David Gordon Green, who's made comedies and serious films, coming of age movies. This is them now, I think, just fully unleashing themselves upon the world. You can tell they probably didn't have a structure when they were making the first 3 films. You can kind of see now this is where they're like, okay, this is what makes sense. We just got to go full off the wall crazy,
Yeah.
and let's just do it.
It really is that. It really is something that they are just embracing the absurdity. They are going down a path with this. They are making it the most campy, unintentionally hilarious. I'm hoping it's unintentionally hilarious, or maybe I'm hoping it is intentional, because I think our theater got more laughs out of this movie than it did genuine like scares, which is really interesting. Anthony, jump on in here. What is your first reaction to Halloween Ends?
I would say this is probably the funniest film I watched this year. Not gonna lie. Um, yeah, this movie is not scary at all. Like, this is surprising because you expected, Halloween to be a movie that's horror based, and it doesn't feel horror. There's not a lot of, even the we were accompanied by a Shane, a fellow friend of ours, who was like, I usually get scared at jump scares, and none of this scared me. Nothing in this movie scared me, and that says a lot, because when you go watch a Halloween film, the intention is to be scared, not to laugh, not to you know smirk at certain one-liners that happened in this film. It's surprising because the first one is so well done, and the second one, we know it wasn't great, and it was really boring with its script. And then this third one, interesting enough, it's better than the second one, but not by a lot. But
Yeah.
there are moments in here, especially that opening sequence, where you're like, oh wait, are we going back to what the first one was going to be about, like that serious tone of Michael Myers? Because the whole thing about this franchise, these last 3 films, was that we were going to make Halloween, this is going to be the setup for this franchise. This is going to be completed. It's not going to have 4,
Right.
5, and 6 and all Halloween H2O and all that gimmicky Michael Myers stuff. This is going to be the what's the word when it's the undisputed franchise of
Like the definitive conclusion, the
definitive, yes,
definitive version
the
of it.
definitive
Yeah.
conclusion to this franchise. And I'm like, there's no way 2 and 3 are what that director wanted or what that team wanted. I just can't see it because the first one is so different. And then we go into this, is just like, no, 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 no. So an hour of this film is really focused on a love story that's just doesn't make sense. It's just not sensical at all. I couldn't believe it. I couldn't believe it at all. And we don't really see Michael Myers in this movie until maybe the last 45 minutes. And it took a really long time. And we were like, what's happening? What's happening? Oh my God, that's actually happening. And you foreshadow little things that you see in the beginning sequence. The beginning sequence is really important. There's a foreshadowing of where this director wanted to go with the story, and it just falls apart. And the last 30 minutes, or we'll say 25 minutes, it is interesting, but this movie, compared to how Michael is caught in that house in the first one with the family and just all the women taking control and shooting him down, that was like
Right.
such a memorable, epic point of that story. That synopsis that I wrote, that I read in a final confrontation, unlike any captured on screen before, absolutely not. This confrontation it doesn't even garner the friggin' words that are said in this synopsis.
So here's the thing though. The first film had such an amazing conclusion. Like, that is a confrontation that was 40 years in the making. That's one that you remember. You remember her trapping him, flipping the script, burning down the house. Like, that was a phenomenal ending to that film. And this one has a good conclusion, but it's also just so campy, and it's very much like, it reminds me like of an 80s movie where it's like, the first one is like really good. And then you get to the last one, or you get to the final, and you're just like, hold on, is this even the same thing? Like, we mentioned Spider-Man 3, even like I'm thinking of like Superman: A Quest for Peace. We're just like, you have the first two movies that are just so, or the first film really, because they shot them almost together, where it's like, here is such like a serious tone, here's something we're striving for that's real. Then you have this last one that is so out there, that is so, again, we're not spoiling anything, but focuses on a love story. Gave me like Halloween Town 2 vibes, which I was telling Shay on the way home too, where it's like, you have this character who's
Great connection.
introduced, and like they fall in love with someone who's attached from the first movie, and you're just like, hold on a second, this is so weird, why are we doing this? The fastest like love story too. It's like one scene, y'all are like, you're going to the grave for one
It was
another
like Romeo
already.
and Juliet. Like they were
Yeah,
literally like, it was I genuinely believe that was the reference that they were trying
right.
to make was, you know, she's from one place, he's from another,
Right.
but they're
They're both
both of the same
tortured. They cut from the
tortured
same cloth.
souls.
Yeah.
And
But
then
like you
boom.
said, Shay, that opening scene is probably one of my favorites of the year, only because of how much of a jaw dropper it was. Everyone in the theater was looking at one another. We were all looking at one another like, oh my god, that was terrifying. And then the rest of the film happens, and it's zany, and it's again very funny and also very strange, but it is a fun film to watch with an audience, and it was funny seeing audience reactions to everything, even though I don't think people were supposed to be laughing. I don't know, I think this movie knew what it was. I think they knew what they were making with this, and they went to like, let's go full camp, let's do something very, very just silly and out there. But then it kind of remembers, oh yeah, this is a Halloween movie, and then the conclusion of this film, the last 15 minutes, is like, okay, let's get back to business. But everything in the middle is just like, just go on, like fasten your seatbelts.
Nonsensical.
You're going on a ride. Yeah,
Nonsensical. That's all I can say. It's like this like it's just, it sucks because you sit there and you're waiting for it and you're waiting for it and you're waiting for it because that opening sequence, like we said, is fantastic, and you see all these other things happening and you're just like, what, where am I, what movie is this movie should be coming out during Valentine's Day, not Halloween. But you know, I at least
I think when
some
you're
of the kills were pretty cool, but
oh, they were all very brutal too. Like
very brutal.
they had some very interesting kills in this. Shay.
right, I think with this movie, like what will make this movie suffer is if you're not prepared to let go of traditions. And I think
Right.
that's kind of what this movie is trying to do. Again, I didn't come on board until about halfway into this film, and even after I left and I'm in the car, I just kept thinking about it because I'm like, you know what? I have to assume all this was intentional, because if it is, wow, they killed it. But if they were ever trying to make it serious, then it's a huge misfire. But I genuinely believe that with the reception that Halloween Kills God, they realize that they don't have anything substantial enough to continue making a serious gritty horror franchise anymore. They needed to go completely far left. Like I think I made the analogy with you in the car, Daniel, of, you look at Evil Dead, by Sam Raimi, and then you look at Army of Darkness, where it's just crazy, fun, stupid, like silly, like it embraces something else completely. Whereas this movie isn't that extreme, but because it's so on the nose with certain things, you're just like, I get it. I think I know what you're trying to do. I just wish you prepared me for this, because
Yeah.
it it doesn't commit all the way, but it
Right.
does commit a lot for you to finally get on board. But if you're
Yeah.
not prepared, you're going to be like, this is going to need some adjustments, a lot of adjustment that you have to do.
Right. And again, at the end of the day too, it's also strange that this is what you're doing for the conclusion. This would have made more sense maybe as the middle chapter, and I think that's one of the things that we struggled with in Halloween 2. That movie feels so far removed from this movie. Like you could watch Halloween 2018 and watch Halloween Ends and not have really missed anything, other than maybe there's a couple key deaths, but there's not really a lot of DNA that ties them together that feels crucial to the
Which
larger
they do
story.
cover.
And they
Like
do cover it, right?
when we were walking in with our friend Shane, he said, "Hey, I haven't seen Halloween Kills," and we kind of just looked at him and said, "I don't think you're gonna need to have seen it." And judging based on his reaction, I don't think it really mattered because you do get a bit of a recap in the beginning,
Right.
and one of the crucial deaths in the last film, Halloween Kills, is referenced enough in this movie for you to be like, okay, yeah, I get it. I get what occurred, what happened, what the whole situation was about, and where the characters are at now. There's a
Right.
lot of this weird, and it's funny because like referencing back to Spider-Man 3, in Spider-Man 3, Peter Parker, he's for some reason narrating a lot. Like he's always going around like, it's been a lot tough years of Spider-Man, blah blah. And this movie starts off kind of similar with
Right.
Laurie Strode just narrating her life and talking about it and giving us the backstory, but making it light and playful. So I genuinely believe that that was maybe the structure that they kind of
Right.
wanted to go with, just committing.
I think
Also, for those of you who will be watching this film, sorry, really quickly, Anthony, let us know if the audio sounded off for you for
In
during
the intro,
Laurie's
right? Yeah.
even in the ending to the narration. Let us know if her audio sounded a little strange. It sounded like it had a weird echo or reverb on it. I know it's like a technical thing that we don't always talk about in our reviews. But I'm very curious to know if you experienced that or if it could have been an issue with one of the channels in our theater, because it definitely felt a little strange. It felt very just, this does not match with the sound in this movie. So yeah, let us know if you experienced that as well too. Anthony, sorry about that.
I just want to say, like, there is a time jump in this film. It takes place 4 years after the last one, and I think that
Right,
might have been an like I guess like when I look at the Halloween franchise, I would have wanted this series to take place over maybe 5 or 6 days within a 3 arc film, just because when you create this legend of Michael Myers and he just continues and continues, it's harder for you to like make up stories that have this man just living forever and ever and ever.
right,
I think if we told a story, which I thought that's what they were going to do with the second one, but it then turns out that they went on this weird story plot that just went nowhere. I think
right.
taking these 3 movies and making it happen in a 6-day period and then that conclusion at the end, because the woman that we saw Jamie Lee Curtis was in the first one, gun toting, she had her fucking house like booby trap like Home Alone, she had,
Yeah, it was Home Alone.
like it was
Yeah,
like amazing, and then that we have the end part where it's like she doesn't even represent that anymore. It's like it's almost gone out of her, and like I don't see that ever removed. Like I don't see her character ever
it's
forgetting
definitely
that.
it definitely is a strange matchup where
Yes.
she has some tendencies of it, but it also feels like she's turned over such an extreme new leaf now, where you're just like, oh, she's a little bit more zany, and I guess because she's trying to be, back in society, she's living on a street and everything. But I also just think that, again, this is no way us saying this movie is amazing or anything like that. It's just like there's some weird just connective tissue between all three of these films that Jamie Lee Curtis obviously in Halloween Kills felt more like she did in 2018's film, but that film also took place the same night. I like that this didn't happen the same night, but also the story that this movie takes you on is so absurd and just so out there with, this guy who falls in love with, with the granddaughter from the first film and obviously the second film, and then they become an item, and like you kind of learn about his history and then how they're all connected. It's just very very it's a very interesting choice to go on, and again, for the conclusion, where I think the first film of 2018 did such an amazing job of feeling like this is the definitive ending of their story. um but it wasn't. It was a jumping off point for a new trilogy, so now we're here. And it's a very I'm really interested to see what the reaction will be for this one. It should be very very interesting to see that. Shay.
It's going to be very divisive. I think this is going to be, I love it. I love what this movie tried to do, or this ain't my Halloween, like it's
Oh,
going to be kind of going down those kind of paths where, and I think both parties are right because again, the preparation to get into this film wasn't set up correctly. And
right.
that's where this film falters. So if you're willing to have an open mind, or open mind's a tough thing to say. I think if you're willing to just kind of go along for the ride,
Go on the ride, yeah.
if you're willing to go along for the ride, you may actually have a good time.
I like it. Let's get to our final recommendations. Anthony, I'm going to get you to start us off.
I'm gonna recommend you add it to your queue. There'll be an option through, I guess, Peacock to watch it at home. But this is, I don't think, if you're a Halloween Michael Myers fan, I don't think this is the movie you want to end this series with. This is, it's just really messy, and it feels like, again, they didn't have the whole story intact from beginning to end, and it felt like, just go with the flow, and that's what this movie was. You just went with the flow, but
Right.
it's not a Michael Myers film at all.
Yeah. I'm right there with you, Anthony, and I'm in both camps right now. I think this movie does a great job of leaning into the absurdity, but also be it's doing that within a Halloween movie, which and like Halloween the franchise, which feels very off. And I think for a lot of this movie, you're going to be just like a little, dumbstruck, just being like, "Oh, this is where we're going. This is what this movie is," which is very, it's a very interesting path it goes down. So like, if you are looking for just uh a weird movie to watch, I definitely say add it to your queue. If you want to see something spooky in the theaters right now, then yeah, go check this out. It's not really that scary, I'll be honest with you. There's gruesome kills in it, yes, but it is not, I wouldn't say this is a scary movie. The 2018 film, that's a scary film. And this film feels like almost like not exactly like a parody of it, but something where they're just like, let's do something completely different. And it may work for you, it may not work for you. For me, I had a great time watching this movie. Doesn't mean it's a good movie though. So take that as far as you will, but that's kind of where my brain is with it. Shay, jump on in.
No, I think you guys summed it up really well. I think the hardest part of kind of giving a recommendation for this film was trying to find the middle line of it,
Right.
and I didn't know where to say. So I think if what you've heard so far and understood so far about this movie, if you are willing to just subvert those expectations and just go along for one of the most insane non-Halloween esque rides, watch this movie in a theater because it is so fun. Um, just have a great time. Maybe take some drugs. I don't know what you want to
Oh,
do, but if you're not of that camp, you want to make sure this is a horror movie, a Halloween movie. This is not going to be it. Maybe add it to your queue and then watch it at home and see, hey, yeah, these guys are right, and then you can probably still go watch it in the theater and have a good time.
yeah, it's going to be very interesting. Of course, like we said, this film is releasing this week here in Canada in theaters only. It will be available on Peacock to watch if you subscribe to Peacock in the United States. So if you are in the States, if you are in the US, if you're one of our listeners watching it, you do have the option to watch it there. But this is a really fun movie to watch with the crowd. I think we had a good crowd for this one. So I'm really excited to hear what your thoughts are. So please right into the show. Join our Discord. Let us know what you think. If you want to send us an email, hello@TheMoviePodcast.ca. Don't forget, you have the option right now. You have the opportunity to get 1 month free of MUBI. We're loving this service right now. There are some incredible films on there. And if you're looking for some spooky movies as well, MUBI is the place to go. We're giving you the chance to have a month free. So please go check out our show notes. Click on our affiliate link down there. Sign up. You get a month free. If you don't like it, you don't have to continue, but give the month a shot. And it will also let them know that, hey, the movie podcast is a good place to be. Shay's, I think, throwing up some interesting
30 30 days
30.
free.
There, okay, 30. Thank God it's that.
The
But
gang
yeah,
signs, the Halloween gang sign.
That looks
The
like
Halloween
three.
gang
That
signs,
looks like
exactly.
3 days because you're doing 0-3. So
I couldn't tell. I did both. I did. Should I do the German three? Which one should I do?
Don't do anything more. That's perfect. Don't worry about it. But yeah, we know we're having a great time with MUBI right now. So please try it out. Show notes below. You won't regret it. And of course, make sure you're following us on Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, and Letterboxd at the Movie Podcast. Subscribe to us on YouTube. Drop a like on this video. Let us know what you think of this movie. We want to know what you think. And of course, as we always say, episodes of the Movie Podcast may end, but the conversation doesn't have to stop. Join us on Discord. We're having a great time there, and we'll have lots of new ways to support the show very, very soon. So stay tuned for all of that. That was this time with the Movie Podcast, and we'll see you next.